next to Albany, probably the other mountaintop experience I had in the civil rights movement was in the summer of '65. Dr. King had, by that time we had passed the '64 Voting Rights Act. He had just passed the '64 Civil Rights Act, '65 Voting Rights Act. And we had had some riots up north, and Dr. King felt kind of a moral obligation to try to explore the ability of nonviolent movement in the North to solve what at the time were called northern problems, or de facto segregation, or something like that. And so in the summer of '65, he set out on a visit to 4 northern cities, Cleveland, Boston, Philadelphia, and Chicago, examining the possibility of each of the 4 to establish his northern base. And by that time I was enough in the movement that I was in charge of most of his visit to Chicago. And the major part of his visit, I had him speak in practically every African American or integrated neighborhood in Chicago, 14 of them. Poor guy, he didn't know what he was getting into. He spent one night in the hospital, had a sore throat, but he spoke in all these neighborhoods. We had them lined up in sequence where you had local people involved in each of the local neighborhoods, and we rode around town in limos with police escorts, which was a different experience. But we hit all 14 of these neighborhoods on Saturday and Sunday, and we probably met with a total of 25,000 people, 1,000 or 2 at a time. And each of them, he would say something about their local neighborhood problems that he'd just been briefed on in the limo by the local representative. But then invited everybody to come downtown with him on Monday and march with him from Buckingham Fountain to City Hall. And he was going to put his 95 Theses on the mayor's door. Come Monday, we had the biggest parade you've ever seen. We filled up State Street for blocks as far as you could see. In the middle of the street, wall to wall. I've never estimated how many there were, because about 5 or 6 blocks back, we're turning a corner, and there's still more that you can't see, but we're talking, I don't know, 50,000. It's hard to tell, but that was a great success. We had thought, you see, that what Chicago needed was leadership. And we got the leadership, and it didn't help. But I'll tell you what it did help. King announced he was going to come to Chicago. Why? Because Mayor Daley could move the country through his power in the Democratic Party. And the civil rights movement in Chicago was the strongest he had seen anywhere. Practically the next day, what the civil rights movement had been trying to do for 10 years, get rid of Superintendent Willis in the public schools, Daley had him out of there. He wasn't going to leave him sit as an obvious mark for King.